WLBB, Carrollton, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the WLBB Community Voice program on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. I'm your host today, Sara Claudia Tillman, and I'm so excited for today's show. I'm joined today by my youngest guest yet, but her age definitely does not diminish the message and the strength and faith that she is going to share with us today on Community Voice. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Natalie Davis to the show.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie. I'm a senior at Carrollton High School. I play soccer and volleyball. I'm vice president of student council. I'm in a bunch of different clubs. I'm pretty involved in the art program at the high school. Are there any other things you want to know about me?
No, me and Natalie were chatting before, and she isn't giving herself justice. She does a lot of different things, juggles a lot of different hats, and stays pretty busy. And you said you play volleyball. I know recently y'all had a pretty successul tournament, I believe. Tell us a little bit about that.
So for the fourth year in a row, all 4 years of high school, we've won the volleyball region tournament. So out of all the 6A schools in our region, we got first at that tournament. So now going into playoffs, we'll be a first-ranked team, one of the 4 first-ranked teams.
Oh, that's exciting. And you also have another exciting week and weekend coming up, being on homecoming court.
Yes, ma'am, I do. I've been lucky enough to be able to be voted on to homecoming court for 4 years now, and it's one of my favorite days all year. It's just so much fun to see everyone in the community and all the students at the different schools line up for parades and come to the football game and get all dressed up. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's exciting for you and your family, but I'm sure your dad's going to be ready for him not to have to buy so many dresses every year anymore.
He definitely will be.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your family.
So I have my dad and then my late mom, Miss Sara Davis, and then I have an older brother who's 12 years older than me, and he is married to my sister-in-law, Caroline. They live in Florida. He is in real estate and does a bit of accounting and things, and she has her own clothing boutique. And then, as many of you might know or may not know, Dad is the pastor here at First Baptist Church Carrollton. He's soon going to be retiring on November 1st, so very bittersweet about it, but very excited for him. He's deserved this for a long time.
Mm-hmm. He has. He's a wonderful man. Your whole family is wonderful. And you mentioned your mom, who passed away several years ago. Now, how old were you when she was diagnosed?
When she was first diagnosed, I believe I was in 5th grade, so I would be 11-ish, probably 11. I think it was towards the end of 5th grade. So I should be 11 at that time, I think.
It's a lot of math to do this early. So what exactly was she diagnosed with?
So in the beginning, she was diagnosed with colon cancer. That colon cancer over time metastasized into other areas of the body. She eventually had some of it spread to the brain and a few different other random areas. That's when it became a little bit harder to control. But in the beginning, it was strictly diagnosed as colon cancer.
So being so young when all this was going on, how well would you say that you really understood what was happening?
I would say in the beginning, not very much. Up until this point, I had never had anyone in my family get sick. I had both of my grandfathers had passed away before I was younger, but other than that, which I didn't really get the opportunity to know them, but other than that, I hadn't had any uncles really or cousins or anything super, super significant in my life where a family member had either passed away or been diagnosed with cancer or some type of long-term condition. And so I didn't really understand what it was or the effect that it had on other people's lives. I obviously knew it was a serious thing, but with my mom's young age, perfect health. She always drank water, loved vegetables, like all these things that, that kids just don't like. She was an extremely healthy person. So I just never really considered it to be a very serious threat at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, something like that, you so unexpected. Mm-hmm. Somebody so young and so healthy. And I mean, was there a moment you remember, I don't know, with you being so young, but where it really clicked in your mind that, okay, this is bad?
Yes, actually. I vividly remember it. I believe it was our fall youth retreat of my 8th grade year. Mm-hmm. It could have been my 7th grade, but I'm pretty positive that it was the fall retreat of my 8th grade year. And we were sitting there in worship, and out of nowhere, I just kind of lost it. Like, I had to leave the room. I don't know what it was, but I kind of, like, slowly started to realize, and that took me a long time to get to that point. I think, obviously, over time, I realized that it was more serious than I had originally thought, and I obviously took it very seriously. But at that fall retreat, I sat in this little back, like, bunk room or something while everybody else was in worship, and one of my best friends, Anna Lowry, and then my children's minister, Jennifer Gendrick, came and just kind of talked to me, and that was a rough day, but that I do vividly remember that time being where I really realized that this was a life-threatening, very, very serious thing, and that I needed to soak up any time that I had left with her. Yeah, and I mean, you said that happened your 7th or 8th grade year, and she was diagnosed when you were in 5th grade, so it was a long process, and it was a long time before it really clicked in your mind. And would you say that over those years and the time that would follow, it made you grow up a lot faster? I feel like something like that would kind of make you mature a lot faster than you would have otherwise. It definitely did. It made me a little bit more conscious of the decisions I made. I didn't really, or at least I tried my best not to get involved with things that I didn't need to at such a young age, which is it's very easy to do whenever you're growing up and you're trying to differentiate from right and wrong. Yeah. I also did a lot to try to, like, make her proud in a sense. I've always, since then especially, I've always wanted to do things that will honor her and make her proud and honor the faith she had through such a difficult time in her life. So it continued on while she was sick as well, not only after she passed away. Yeah, and I know a lot of times, we have that teenage angst, and we want to rebel and go against our parents, but in some way, I can see how it might have been a blessing that you were able to recognize just how precious that time with your mother and both your parents was and still is with your dad. Yeah, I definitely will say it's made me a lot closer with my dad. He's my, like, absolute best friend. I took for granted, like, little things that parents used to do that got on your nerves and stuff, like if you're going to a dance or something and they're out there dancing and you try to tell them to stop, like little things like that, I definitely took for granted. So I have definitely changed how I interact with my dad. We don't really fight anymore. I'm trying to be since then I've tried to be a little bit more compliant and understandable to all the things that we've been through and what he's trying to do as a parent, because I was very oblivious to some of that stuff whenever I was in my junior high years. Yeah, and I'm sure it's something you've also maybe tried to pass along to your friends too, when you hear things they say or the way they act, just letting them know you never know how much time you have left with them and appreciate it. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, Tanner Health Systems and Oak Mountain Academy, before we get back to Community Voice to hear more from Natalie.
A well-rounded education includes much more than just academics. At Oak Mountain Academy, we encourage our students to find their niche in any of our 42 co-curricular opportunities. Over the past 5 years, we have brought home 5 state and 20 regional athletic titles. Our one-act play and literary teams continuously compete at the region and state level, and our academic teams bring home first place more than not. We are warriors creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. We are Tanner Strong. That's tanner.org. We are Tanner Strong.
Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. Sara, Claudia, Tillman here with Natalie Davis. We're talking about her mother and the wonderful legacy that she's left with us. Now, I know from my own life that your mother was a light for so many people. She was actually did some babysitting for my mom. She would come and watch my brother and sister and bring your brother along. And I know she was just so kind and had that gentle spirit about her. And I remember after I lost my sight, one of the very first times that I went walking on the Greenbelt, my mom and I actually ran into your mom. And this was obviously after she got sick, but she was just so encouraging to me, despite what she was going through. She was so encouraging to me and just to my mom, and I know she was that way to everybody that she encountered. So how did she shine this light despite the dark circumstances that she was facing?
Well, I've always said that if you did not know her, like if you did not know what she was going through at the time, you would not have been able to figure it out from any time you encountered my mom. She was one of the most selfless people I've ever met. So no matter how much pain she was in, no matter what type of difficult day she's had, she would never ever fail to ask how your day was, how you were feeling. She would never complain about things, which we tried to tell her sometimes, like, that's okay. That's okay to complain about these types of things.
Yeah.
But even I was thinking back, and even on like the day right before she passed away, so October 30th, 2016, she obviously had to be in an immense amount of pain. Like that was where her cancer had kind of spread to more parts of her body than it could physically sustain itself with. And it was very interesting. She was extremely peaceful. She was not upset or sad. It was one of the happiest I'd seen her in a long, long time. And even since then, she still kept a smiling face, even though I knew that she was going through, looking back on it, I've realized she was going through an immense amount of pain, one that I would not even be able to comprehend in my brain, that I've never experienced before. And that's just super amazing to me, thinking back on it, how that she never ever made any of it about her. She made it about her faith and finding bright lights in the darkness during that whole terrible time.
Yeah, and I mean, you all dealt with it for so long, and watching her go through that pain, I'm sure, was devastating. But like you said, seeing somebody going through something like that who relies on their faith and looks for light despite, their pain and their grief it's encouraging, and it's something that you'll always remember, I'm sure, as you face hard times in your life down the road. But what would you say, after she passed away, you had all this grief to deal with, but you still had a lot ahead of you. I mean, you were, 14?
I think it was 13.
13?
They're about to be 14.
Yeah, so you still had so much ahead of you, and you were facing growing up and starting high school and doing all these things without your mother, facing all these milestones. How did you kind of move forward?
Well, it took a village of people. Everyone around me, my church community, my school community, my good friends, all of my family. It took a lot of people to get me through especially the next year, starting high school, going through all of those kind of first things without mom, like our first Christmas without mom, and all of those things that are extremely difficult and kind of just rebring to surface all of those same emotions that you felt whenever we lost her. But one thing that I can think about, I'm actually wearing it today, was 3 of my basic, like, godmothers, right after Mom passed away, got me this locket that has a picture of her in it, and these 3 little diamonds to, like, represent them.
Yeah.
And I've always worn this on exciting days or days that I really wish Mom could have been there for. So I've always worn them on homecomings and holidays and first days of school, some bigger events. So that kind of is a way for me to feel like she's still there. And then also writing to my mom helps. I guess you could call it like a form of prayer in a way, but mostly just like writing. Sometimes it's about bigger events. Sometimes it's just like, what happened today? That kind of things that I wish that I could tell her when I got home from school and things like that. But I did not do it alone. I definitely had quite the village of people surrounding our family that kind of helped push us to where we are today.
Yeah, I love that about writing, because it really can be a form of therapy and and prayer as well. So what would you say has been kind of like the hardest milestone to go through?
Wow, that's a lot to think about. Probably not seeing her in the stands for my sporting events. That was one of my favorite things. Was my dad and my mom have always been so supportive of me. They have never tried to like coach me from the sidelines, or they've just always loved to come watch me play. And honestly, like sports, especially soccer, I've played since I was little. Mom's always gotten to watch me play up until when she passed away. So that was one thing that I've always wanted her to be. Like, I've always wished that she could be there in the crowd, especially for like when we made it to the Final Four last year and stuff. Those were some of the most exciting things. And things like winning region tournament last weekend. Like, those were some of the most exciting days of my whole high school career. And I've always really wished that she could be there for those. But on those exciting days and stuff, I always do feel like a calming sense of her presence. Whenever I get nervous, I try to remind myself that she's like always with me.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure your faith too is a big part of that.
I have, like, for instance, every single time when we're going onto the soccer field, I always say like a quick prayer to myself, and it's a super calming presence for me. I think that in some moments I can kind of feel Mom watching over me. Yeah. Anytime that I'm nervous, my nerves will kind of wash away really quickly, which I can't help but think is a bigger thing than just myself.
Definitely.
But it's definitely made me stronger. I tend to be more aware of my feelings and a little bit more reflective on how my day was, how my week was, and trying to use that to strengthen my faith.
Yeah.
And also I just think back to what my mom went through and how strong a faith she had. And I try to not have a doubt I know that I don't have a doubt in my mind that my mom's in heaven, and that's a reassuring thing.
Yeah.
For me, and I know for my family.
Yeah, that's something that Kiki McDaniel, Chase's mom, said the same exact thing. You know, when you know your loved one is in heaven and in that better place, and all the pain and that their pain and grief is gone, that kind of gives you that comforting feeling and that peace.
It definitely does.
And knowing that she's so proud of you, and you know she's looking down and smiling that big smile every time you take on that field, I'm sure is a comforting feeling as well.
It is.
Okay, and you just started your senior year.
I did.
So that's exciting. Tell us, do you have any college plans yet? I know your dad's a big Alabama fan, right? So
yes.
Is that an option?
It is. So I've submitted my college application. School's always kind of been a big thing to me. I've always enjoyed going to school and learning and all of those types of things. So I definitely have lots of ideas for college. As far as narrowing them down, I do not know what I will be doing.
Yeah.
I've considered going into teaching. I know that I would love it. I've also considered doing something with math. I'm a big math person. Or something a little bit more creative, interior design or sports broadcasting, just all kinds of different things.
Lots of options.
So, yes, they are not all very similar. There's a big variety.
Yeah.
So I've not narrowed that down yet, but whenever I do figure it out, I will let you know.
Very exciting. It's good to have a lot of options.
It is.
We're going to take one more break to hear from our sponsors, Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy. We'll be right back with Community Voice to hear more from Natalie Davis.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong. That's tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong.
As a graduate of Oak Mountain Academy, I've found that my experience on the mountain prepared me beyond all expectations. As a junior at Auburn University, I approached my studies with great confidence thanks to what I learned at OMA. When I think back on my time on the mountain, I think of my teachers. Their genuine love and concern for me as a student was always evident, and now, as an adult, I still foster those relationships. I'm Carly Robinson, an Oak Mountain Academy alum. Visit oakmountain.us to see how you can offer your child an amazing opportunity to be a warrior.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. Sara, Claudia, Tillman here with Natalie Davis, who has been sharing her and her family's story of after she lost her mother, how she's been able to live through her mom's legacy and just the light that she shone on so many people. We were just talking about starting your senior year and all of your college possibilities. Now, tell us a little bit about how the senior year's been going so far, because I know it's been a little bit different with the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's obviously been very bittersweet. Right now, a little bit more sad than sweet.
Yeah.
And that's, it's very telling of the friends that I have, the school community I have, that it is going to be such a sad but happy thing to leave. I have a great friend group, a great teachers, great classes, great school community. But throughout the whole quarantine and COVID-19, dealing with that types of things, it's made me more thankful and appreciative of all the things that I'd taken for granted. Something as simple as going to school and eating lunch with my friends.
Yeah.
School, fortunately, is relatively back to normal with the exception of masks. Lunch is a little bit different. But other than that, our administration and the teachers and all the school's employees, the board members, they've been working so hard to make school as normal as possible. They're letting us have a homecoming parade, which we're very excited about. And I think also I've been a little bit more appreciative and tried to be a little bit more understanding, just because I have seen a teacher's perspective of how, not necessarily this, no one's been prepared to deal with this, but other obstacles that have come up in the ways, and I see how hard teachers have to work outside of school to get normal class done, let alone having to deal with online students and in-person instruction. I could not imagine what they're going through now, so it has made me a lot more appreciative of the staff at Carrollton and other schools.
Well, I think that's a theme we've gotten from you this morning, that whenever you face something hard, you try to turn it around to thankfulness and being appreciative of what you still have. And I think that's such a wonderful attitude to have. And I was so excited to have you on this month because the Strides for Sherry 5K is on the 31st, correct?
It is.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So it is really we really wanted a time to honor my mom's life, take it into a positive light, and treat it more as a celebration. There are so many people who were impacted by her life and wanted to have a way to come together each year, annually, to kind of honor the many ways that she impacted our lives. And so we thought that it would be a good idea to host it at one of her favorite places in the world, which was the middle school. Well, I guess it's the Carrollton Upper Elementary School now. But we always start the race there, go along the school's campus, because she was so passionate about being a Trojan, and she loved Carrollton more than anything ever, and she loved teaching. And so that was kind of just the goal of it, was to create a way for us to celebrate her life and her legacy with all of the people that she loved each year.
Do the proceeds go to benefit any specific?
They do. So the proceeds go towards the Sherry Davis Memorial Scholarship Fund, which we give, I'm not exactly sure the amount, but we give a scholarship each year from that fund, and the Colquitt family also gives a scholarship, and I believe the Lowrys also give a scholarship in honor of Mom, but ours particularly, that comes from the fund from the race, goes towards a future student, hopefully with someone that has an academic need for this type of scholarship, that would like to be a teacher or is professing that they would like to go into education whenever they enter college. And one thing that I kind of didn't think about until I was writing down some notes for today was how significant that could be for someone, because teaching was my mom's calling. She would have been good at whatever she wanted to do, but she was meant to be a teacher probably from birth. Like, she was not everybody is meant to be a teacher. And I just couldn't imagine what she would be doing or how her story would have unfolded if money had been the issue that stopped her from becoming a teacher. And so I've always thought that that's such an amazing thing that we're able to do to honor her life and support someone who wants to do something very similar and have that same impact on children's lives in their future. I would love that we're able to help them have the opportunity to accomplish that goal. Yeah,
that is wonderful. And how can our listeners go sign up for the race if they want to?
There's a bunch of different ways you can find the link. We, as in my family, Steve Davis or myself, Natalie Davis, we'll share it a bunch of times on our Facebook. My church, First Baptist Church Carrollton, will probably also be sharing it. You can look it up on Facebook, or you can just Google it. If you Google it, the sign up for the race will pop up on probably the first or second page on Google. You can buy t-shirts. There's a raffle we always do. It's a lot of fun. People come out. You don't actually have to run if you don't want to. I walk it sometimes. Sometimes I run. But it is a ton of fun. We'll always have music and stuff. I love going and entering the raffle. I make Dad buy me a bunch of raffle tickets. But it is a lot of fun, and we always have family and old friends come down for it, and so we're very excited, especially that it actually fell on the on the exact day that she passed away. Is kind of a little bit extra special.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a good way to remember her, and like you said, go to a great cause to help somebody hopefully reach their calling. So real quick before we close out, what advice would you give to somebody going through something similar? You know, whether a loved one is sick or they've lost a loved one or a close relative.
So unfortunately, I actually have had the opportunity. I've reached out to a few fellow students, and I've had a few people reach out to me who have unfortunately gone through a very similar situation where they have a loved one who's sick or they lost a close parent or a sibling. So I actually have had the opportunity to talk to a few kids who have gone through something very similar to what I did. So I had two big pieces of advice that I tried to tell these people, or that I would tell somebody in the future. And one of them is to just allow yourself to feel whatever you need to feel. I think that I really tried to put on a brave face for everyone instead of just letting myself feel sad if I feel sad, telling myself that it's okay if I'm angry even, not just sad, but angry, or having doubts in my faith and stuff. I kind of felt like it was wrong, like I shouldn't after my mom had such strong faith, but that's something that's normal and it's hard to do. It's hard not to question things, hard to keep a smiling face on, and so I tried to push those feelings away. And so one thing that I would tell people is just to allow yourself to feel whatever you need to feel, because it's entirely normal to do that. And then also not to rush the grieving process, and that for everybody it takes a different amount of time. I was someone who, like, I've always tried to be very strong for everyone else around me. After she passed away, I think that I was back at school maybe 2-3 days later. Wow. Which, looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have done that. I think I came back with a smiling face, wanted everybody to think that I was okay, which really, obviously, no one knew that I was, and everybody was very understanding of that. They knew that was more of a coping thing, that was just how I was dealing with it. But for me, that was not very healthy. I kind of pushed off a lot of my feelings, and then they all kind of would spring back to me and rush back all at once. Maybe like a month or so later, I really had a strong realization of what my life was going to look like from there on out.
Yeah.
So I kind of wish I'd taken more time just to be with my family while they were in town, and to spend that time with my family closer.
Yeah. Well, that's some really great advice, and it's hard to feel those things, but you have to feel before you can heal, is what I always like to say. Well,
I like that.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us today. I hope everybody found a little bit of strength and faith from your message.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time on Community Voice.